Well, if we observe, let's say the past 50, 60 years of history in music, we see there was different kinds of sounds. Then rock and roll came. I don't think anything can be quite comparable to hip hop. But also, we have to take into consideration that when hip hop came, technology also expanded. And the social engineers also were at a certain kind of level of maturity or expertise. So I'm not sure it's just because of hip hop, but for sure there's something about hip hop. And we can break it down. I'm not necessarily in the mood, but I feel that something about hip hop, it's not just hip hop, it's the sound of hip hop, where it comes from, what it means, and its timing in the overall culture of humanity, in the overall history of humanity. Its timing, its technological juncture. This is a particular moment in time where this is it's becoming ripe at us. Rock and roll didn't become ripe in 1995. You know what I mean? It didn't like get its maximum flex in 2002 when the internet is exploding, where it can spread throughout the entire world instantly at the speed of light, that you can download it with Napster. Right? At the time where there's music channels everywhere, where people dance and make music and kids watch TV because it's part of culture now to watch television. So it wasn't like this before. They didn't even have a television a couple of years ago. The advent of modern television is a new thing. I'm not talking about television with 2 channels. I'm talking about it in my days in the 80s. What we had, 11 channels. 11. Then maybe a couple of years later, jumped to 30. Yeah, but the generation before, they had 3 channels. That's it. So do you understand? The technology that spreads the culture was also very primitive. So it's like hip hop represents like a juncture of a lot of elements: television, mainstream media strength and capacity, the internet, a certain expertise in sound creation also, plus hip hop, which represents, quote unquote, the voice of the people who want something new, which is much greater than just people in Brooklyn or people in the Bronx. This is a universal desire for something new, which is, we can tie it to astrology. Meaning astrological studies can tell you that there's a juncture throughout these decades where humanity is evolving, or quote unquote evolving towards something new. So can we say it's just hip hop? No, but clearly hip hop is the messenger. So that makes it a very special kind of sound, because it's the one that's able to take all these streams of possibilities and spread it to the world. So I'm not trying to remove that, but hip hop it's also that's why it's so special. It's intermixed with everything. It's intermixed with sports. It's intermixed with technology. It's intermixed with video games. It's all convoluted together, and hip hop seems to be like the fascia that holds it all together. I don't believe there had been such a thing like this before. Rock and roll to a certain extent, but technology was primitive. Everything was still very small, local. Europeanized, right? The Beatles came here. Then everything is, no, this is like at a click of a button, that song is in Bali. Well, that's powerful. Now, that's a powerful agency to spread a message. And I think the medium of hip hop is a perfect container. It's got melody, it's got groove, it's got rhythm. And attached to this, you have these personas that are quote unquote grounded in life, who represent freedom. Freedom from the past, freedom from culture, freedom from responsibility, freedom from authority, freedom, which is fundamentally something innate in human beings, particularly at this time, and particularly towards the dawning of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius. when you want to just break the old. So all this is kind of coming together. And hip hop seems to be the fulcrum. So it's clearly special to be able to house all of that and to be the messenger. And you see it, I witnessed it spread like wildfire. And every country has their hip hop. Egypt has their hip hop. India has their hip hop. Germany has their hip hop. Russia has their hip hop. Everybody has their version of it. And they bring to it their own heritage. Egyptian hip hop is awesome. Not awesome. Some of it is fucking awesome. But it's totally Egyptian. If you're Egyptian and you know anything about Egypt, you listen to it, it's like this is purely Egyptian. This is an Egyptian doing hip hop, but it's hip hop nevertheless. The swag of it, the vibe of it, hip hop is an attitude. The attitude isn't it? It's just Egyptian style. So what else does that? I've never witnessed something that does that besides hip hop. But it's a certain kind of hip hop though. And that's also another element. It's not the hip hop like I grew up on in the 90s, early 90s. No, that's another kind of hip hop. It's the I don't know, should we say second, third generation hip hop? It's the hip hop that's not hip hop. It's the hip hop that's the commercial hip hop. It's the hip hop that no longer has roots. It's the hip hop that is a construct. It's the hip hop that has been stolen, which was a genuine culture. Remember, this is the key. I'm going to take this tangent. I apologize. So, there are people who are much better well versed than me in the history of hip hop, but I know my history more or less. The point is, there's a group of people somewhere in New York and they have a certain living, like I said, they live in certain circumstances, certain environment, a certain moment in time. And from their being together and their lifestyle, a sound emerges, which is called hip hop. It's their culture. It's at least that new culture, which represents a certain moment and wants to grow, is birthed. These are specific people, specific generation. Their forefathers are slaves. They've gone through the 1960s with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and all that liberation movement, which was hacked into, of course. So they're the byproducts of that just at the onset of the crack epidemic. This is their world. That's their reality. That's their moment. Ain't got nothing to do with me and you. I'm a dude from the suburbs in Canada. I ain't got nothing to do with that. That's their moment. And from their collective experience together, something emerges. A sound, a vibration, a voice, a message, and something that needs to speak, to express itself, starts to emerge. And then the guys who are feeling it, they want to find, well, how are we going to express? There's a vibration that wants to express itself, but we don't know how to. It doesn't sound like this, it doesn't sound like this, it doesn't sound like that, it doesn't sing like this, it doesn't speak like this. I don't know what it is, but we need to find the ways to communicate that vibration that is being birthed here. Some people will say it's in the Bronx, other people will say it's in Brooklyn. It's irrelevant. In our zone, in our area, this vibration wants to speak, and we don't know how to make it speak, so now we have to figure it out. But it's being birthed by our collective and our collective experience at that moment. And then suddenly they start to figure it out. Okay, so when we put this and we put that together and we make it like this and we take that part, it's starting to, yeah, that's what it is. No, that's not it. That's there. That's mom and, no. It's not that, it's this. Oh, yeah, it's that. Okay, it's like this, but how you make that like match with this so it's like fluid? Okay, let's try like mad scientists trying to ground a frequency. Try to express it and communicate it in a sonic fashion in a way that doesn't exist just yet. Having and using what they have, which is, of course, exactly what they need. So suddenly that emerges. And then it starts to now, everybody gets it. Because it's theirs. It's the sound of that space. So they're getting it, they're feeling it, and now they're starting to evolve it. It's starting to mature. Okay, what does this say? How does it speak? What does it communicate? What's its message? We don't know because it doesn't know how to talk. You're like a little baby. What does a baby know how to do? It doesn't know how to talk. It wants to say something, but it doesn't know how to speak. And first of all, its basic needs take so much space. It has to mature enough so that its needs evolve, dare I say. And then it has to learn how to communicate that. So the same goes for hip hop. And then it starts to like grow and mature and be stabilized by I don't want to say a nation because that wouldn't be fair, but by neighborhoods and that neighborhood and that neighborhood and that neighborhood and that neighborhood. It's just a whole area. And that now it's just like, okay. And then the guys are coming, it's like, yeah, I know this because this is me. And that intent, that frequency, that sound is passing through me, and here's what it wants to say, and here's what it's saying. And I can't get it just right, so this particular rap, it kind of sounds like right? Yeah, it's cute, but it's like it's nothing like when they start to nail it. And then we enter into the 90s, where in my humble opinion, that a lot of people will agree, this is the golden age, the so-called golden age of hip hop. That's because they're nailing it. They're nailing the sound of it. They're nailing the technologies, and the MCs are nailing the voice of it. They know how to speak it. They know how to. It wants to speak it. I know what it wants to say. It wants to tell our story. It wants to share our experiences. It wants to scream out, I want to break these fucking shackles. I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of the oppression. I'm sick of being squished and crushed. It wants to tell the rest of the world, what are we going through? This is what we are living, because you don't know about us. You have no idea who we are. You have no idea what we're going through. You don't even care, and nobody wants to talk about us. We now need to let you know what's going on. So it's formulating itself via the MCs, who are nothing but alchemists at the end of the day. And now they start to get, here it is. Now I'm starting to have it. Right? So now that's a genuine culture. That's literally, as we said, it's a group of people living together in certain context, environment, at a certain moment. And that's the thing, that's the invisible thread that ties them all together. And if you gave it a feeling, a way of dressing, a way of communicating, what does it look like? Well, that's hip hop. Okay, amazing. I didn't forget that we were talking about Egypt hip hop, and don't think that for a second, but this is an important tangent. So now people from the outside are seeing this is like, wait a minute. This is something. This is creating a earthquake. This is trembling. This is power there. This is something real. There's a message here. There's something going on. So I could push the story and the history a little further, but I want to jump a couple of steps. Well, what if now we could subvert it and direct it to do something else? What if we took it? So all we got to do is remove it from its roots, give it an illusion of roots, and now it's ours. So we hold the same. So we need a black man, and we need a beat, we need a rhythm, and at the time we need an angry dude or a hip dude. Doesn't matter. So we can maintain the appearance of what it used to have, but now it doesn't have any roots anymore. It's not connected to the original culture. It's our culture. We've taken it. And now we're going to put in it whatever we want. And then we're going to take that and we're going to spread it. Now, of course, as they start, they don't know how people are going to respond to it. But the people took it in. Because there was something about that sound that everybody resonated with. There was something true about the sound. There was something true that these guys were living. They were living an experience that may have been, it's like India is considered very often like the Mecca of spirituality, right? So when you want to start to discover about spiritual life outside of the three major Abrahamic religions, you go to India, because India is the hub of spirituality, if I can say so myself, okay? So it's not that it's limited to India, but it's like in India it's still there. We're still alive somehow. So we go back now to New York, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem, all that area, and there's something that It's a message, a voice that wants to start to speak, but that is a universal voice. But they're the keepers of it. They're the ones who are experiencing it, just like we can say in India, at the highest level. So when people listen to the sound, although I may not be from your area and I have never come across or lived anything remotely close to what you've lived, besides somebody stealing my lunch money, right? Something about your sound meets me and affects me instantly. I recognize it immediately. Because your sound is my sound also. You're speaking on behalf of the oppressed. You're speaking, this is the sound of the people who ain't got fuck all. Now, I may not have fuck all, I may have everything, but something in me is still just like you. But I can't necessarily name it, point to it. And if I say something, you say, you're a privilege, whatever you are. Yeah, perhaps on the outside, but something on the inside feels just like you. That's why when I'm listening to your sound, something in me recognizes it. So I'm telling you what the powers that be that wanted to steal that culture and spread it, first they had to see how would the white people respond, how would the rest of the world respond. And somehow, some way, they took to it. Yeah, but I'm trying to say why? Because there's something about that sound that's true. And it's something about what was being birthed in that area of America and New York. It's a sound that is not limited to these people, just like the spirituality is not limited to India. Or Islam is not limited to the Mecca in Saudi Arabia. No. It's not limited to New York, to the Bronx, to Brooklyn, to Harlem, and all those. It's not, no. This is a sound that is just being birthed there. And we can say that this is the crux of it. But people resonate with it. So enters that mind that wants to take that culture for itself, subvert it, make it into something else. And here we go again, the story continues. Anyways, to close the loop with the Egypt or the modern hip-hop, so the hip-hop that's spread everywhere, something in it still looks like it's authentic. Something still remains somewhat authentic, but it's not. It's the hip-hop that's not connected to roots anymore. But it sounds like it. It kind of almost feels like it. We can argue that it is like it. And that's why the old heads will say this is nonsense. And people such as myself who grew up on the 90s hip-hop, I'm like, no, it's not, I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm just saying that's not hip-hop. That's something, you can call it you can call it hip-hop if you like. It's like yoga. This is not yoga. It doesn't mean it doesn't have benefits, but this is not yoga. You call it yoga. If you want to call it yoga, we could call it yoga. But this is not yoga. This is not hip-hop. We call it like that. We can agree that we call it like this, but that's not hip-hop. That is and was hip-hop. And you can immediately feel the distinction. But some of it is still somehow there or mimicked. Anyways, I tied a lot of threads in this little moment, in this little flow. And let's see where this takes us.